Hello and welcome to my series of conversations with men and women whose ideas, vision and philosophy help define our contemporary world. My guest today is a poet, writer, essayist, novelist, a man of numerous parts. He's written extensively and widely, from people ranging from J.D. Salinger to Sonia Gandhi to Ramakrishna to Sardama to Aurobindo, a whole large spectrum of ideas, issues and philosophies. He has been a teacher to thousands of students whose lives he has deeply impacted. He's been a professor of English literature, of comparative literature in the United States, and is one of those sort of hidden gems of India. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Mr. Som Ranchan. Welcome to the program. You laughed when I said hidden gems, because as I said to you that, I went onto the internet trying to find out and learn more about you as we set up this interview, and you've authored 60 books.
That's true.
Which is a formidable number of books, and but 35 of them are on Amazon.com, which is sort of the great international distributor of books, but there wasn't a line about you, about who you are and what you did and your life story, as it were. And so that's why I described you as a hidden gem. Does that, in a sense, bother you? Does it worry you? Has that been a conscious decision that it's your writings and your work that must speak?
No, I'm very happy, that you paid. You are a gemologist, you call me a gem, but I had never thought of myself as a gem as such. I mean, I've been writing whatever takes my fancy, and as a writer, I'm footloose and fancy-free, to use that phrase of Walt Whitman from Song of the Open Road, I believe. I'm not a good researcher, I mix up, texts. But I do like to believe that whenever I do get involved with a subject, the subject takes me over after a while. And so that makes me believe that my involvement with any subject, however prosaic it may be, is more creative than research-oriented.
Yet there is the sheer range, the vastness of issues that your poetic sensibility applies itself to. As I'd mentioned that J.D. Salinger, you do an essay on Salinger, you do a biography of Sonia Gandhi, you've just done a book of poetry on Sardama. You've done, I could just go on. So what you feel is, what is that guiding, that strand inside of you that...
I can tell you something about my creativity. I mean, the process, I mean, in the beginning, of course, you see, I'm playing with a certain author because that author, appeals to me. But after a while, a process which is much larger than my conscious ego reality takes over. And if you want to use a yogic vocabulary, after a while you see a kind of a resonance, some sort of a nod, tumba, it starts, playing. And I can't finish, I can't stop it till it's over. For example, this poem, America with Love, Me and Colombia, I started writing it, it's 148 pages in this text. It had a very ridiculous beginning, because there was a competition in the university reading poetry. So I thought, I have been in the States for 4 years earlier on Fulbright, and I had been in the university, for 2 years. So I thought there was a stockpile. There were some some gasoline.
So, gasoline is the fuel.
Yeah.
But, very often,
Yeah.
what
what happens
poets
to
and
me.
artists, feel they need perhaps
Yeah.
is catharsis. That, you
No.
have something, a wellspring of insight and feeling and emotion that must find
I'm very
expression.
particular about the use of words. For example, I will not accept the fact that I am cathartic in my poetry. Because catharsis is something so limited, so personal, and it goes on and on. It is so sequential, it is so neurotic, it is so compulsive. And when you go below your surface biology confined, your life confined catharsis layer, you go down. At least that is my sense of it. And then what you are writing, you are not cathartic for yourself. You have become, generically speaking, a spokesman for others also, because you are writing from a layer which is embracive of others,
That
not
is-
only of your of your reality, of your predicament.
Well, that is obviously your interest in Jung and Jungian philosophy and understanding of consciousness and collective consciousness that's speaking.
Yeah, Jung, I have, I can say modestly that I have a very good, rich, deep understanding of Jung, and my understanding of Jung is not at the speculative level that most academicians who invoke Jung for analysis, of literary texts. The reason for this is that apart from, messing around, banging around with Jung for many, many years, I came across a teacher of Jungian psychology, a Jungian, certified Jungian therapist who trained others.
And you taught a course with him. Was
No,
this-
first of all, in order to become Jungian, you have to go through analysis with a Jungian for 2 years. You have to clock, 200 hours with a male Jungian and 200 hours with a female Jungian, so that you get a rounded, conscientio androgynous, orientation to Jungian therapy or psychology. And you go through that Jungian, they do a number on you, Jungian number, so that when you do practice formally or informally, you are not imposing your own constrictions and complexes and attitudes on the person who's working with you. So
in what
mean,
ways did this influence you? You've already sort of pointed to how it influenced your poetry, perhaps, that you reach, you go down the layers beyond the cathartic element into the deeper layers
it is
of
not because of
consciousness.
Jung. I used to go down, fathoms below. I could go down, but I was using at that time yoga. But I went into Jung for 3 reasons. Firstly, I had to sort out just certain psychic, issues in me myself. Secondly, though in 60s and early 70s, teacher from India was very important. So students, would come in droves, in flocks to the room. So I got worried. I better learn and depth psychology in order to do justice, to the demands that they were making on me.
We'll
So
just come
I
to
would
that
say
in a-
I used both mantra sadhana,
Uh-huh.
and my spiritual connectivity with whosoever I would get connected with, and Jung. So it was a 2-pronged handling. I combined them in order to resolve my own massa confusa and also to be more effective in an efficacious way in dealing with others.
We'll come to that in a moment. You're watching a conversation with a remarkable poet, as you've already noticed and discovered during our brief conversation thus far, Som P. Ranchan. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with Som Ranchan, a poet, intellectual, philosopher, writer. What do you see as your primary identity, at least the external identity that you present to the world? obviously with the many layers that you're dealing with
My-
internally, it would be a dangerous question to ask you what is your identity.
My external identity is, I'm not very happy, with this buzzword identity. I think the whole concern with identity, it gets you into a blind, it gets you into a cul-de-sac. I would go more with the Sufis, that first of all, smithereed, you see quite a bit of your identity, so that you are left with a little phantom identity. And one has to go beyond phantom identity, what the Sufis call fana, so that you are knotted, okay, and you become a fakir and a king, both. In any way, leaving aside, you see, this theological, philosophical, Sufic logomachy, my external identity is very simple. I enjoy daily routine. For example, I was telling you when we were not on the tube,
Okay.
that I like to cook before I get to do some writing, because that makes me somewhat physically active, because I'm not a routine man, I don't do any exercise. Then I move around and I just relate to whosoever may come. I relate to my students who come sometimes from America. I relate to students who were with me, and they come from, I've had students, some of them are settled in America, some in Canada, some, I'm just going blah, blah, blah.
No, you're not. So
I don't have an external, it's more of a vestigial external identity. And in the evening I relax, enjoy myself with friends.
So, for someone who's written so extensively on spirituality, from Jesus Christ, Aurobindo,
Yes,
a whole
yes.
spectrum of things. You've even written about, Aurobindo's approach to healing.
Yeah,
and
that I
therapy.
did. That I did, because I used to go to the Indian Institute. You will have to be patient with the Indian Institute of Advanced Study for selection of fellows. So the director immediately said to me, and I was about to retire, he says, "Professor, have you never thought of coming to?" He says, I said, "You don't expect me to apply?" He said, No. He says, "What would you like to work on?" I just said spontaneously, I said, either I could work, from Indian English poetry from Doordarshan to the present, or I could work on derive, you say, therapeutic system from Shri Aurobindo, because I think when I read him, I feel that I am the only competent one, who understands its implication, and I could put it in a comparative frame. So because Professor Miri, had done a small book, Philosophy of Freud, when first time he was fellow there, he says, "I would like you to do orotherapy." So that's how I got it. But I had an interest in Shri Aurobindo. I used to read his poetry, and I consider him as a philosopher and a very specialized poet in Savitri, though I have read Savitri many, many times in order to addle my brain. But I don't have as such a commitment to. My hard commitment is to the, not to the order as such, but I feel my comfort zone is with Mother Sharda. Maybe she reminds me of the hallowing of the ordinary. So I don't sense any calibrated spirituality in me myself.
So when you say Mother Sharda, do you think that she might have been the Holy Mother in a sense, if Ramakrishna hadn't placed her on this pedestal and said Ma? And where did that her spirituality come from? Was it, you think it was innate in some ways?
In her,
because
or in me?
Well, you too. We'll come to you in a moment. But
you see, I am going to take an opposite stand. I am not going to subscribe to this patriarchal, monastic attitude that Paramhans. I mean, if Paramhans hadn't been around, Mother Sharda, would not have become spiritual. Because, as a matter of fact, if you read the biographies, Paramhans Ramakrishna does believe that she is the Shakti. You see, we are dealing with the personal relationship. I think that Ramakrishna order stands firm, as far as I'm concerned, on Mother Sharda. Regard to Ramakrishna, I mean, I don't know, even though I have a poem on Paramahansa Ramakrishna, I don't think I can understand him. But I do have a feeling that I have an itty-bitty understanding from time to time,
but do you
because
think
of my
that,
experience.
But do you think that Sharda Ma may have played the catalytic role that enabled Ramakrishna to fulfill his spiritual
Mother Sharda played
destiny?
the catalytic role.
Yes.
I think they both catalyzed each other.
Okay.
If you want to see it from that perspective.
To what degree have they catalyzed your spirituality, your spiritual quest?
My
and who and
spirituality
what
has been essentially catalyzed by Mother Sharda. And it's a very heavy word for me. You know, I don't want to feel that. I mean, even when I was in Jalandhar studying in DAV College, I had certain visionary experiences. It took me time, you know, to understand visionary experiences that I had with her when I did not know. In fact, I ran away from college, then I came to Paharganj Ramakrishna Order. It was a very small outfit, small operation at that time. And I saw the picture for the first time. I said, "Lo," I said, "this is it." I mean, I saw her as a student without knowing who she was. You see, because I came from an Arya Samaj family, and we did not celebrate, you know, except in a token way. We were not into pantheon of, we were not into halisa of gods and goddesses. But you see, there I find personally related. Something happens to me, I mean, I think it's in my poetry too. I'm not impressed with the great goddesses waving to crowds, standing on balconies. I mean, it's my problem, you know, I can relate to her. That's all I can say.
We'll come right back to that as to why it's a problem in the first place, but you're watching a conversation with Som Ranchan, poet, teacher, philosopher. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with Som Ranchan. I started describing him as a poet, but I think he's already beginning to reveal so many layers of being.
You are getting
and
stuck
writing.
with layers. I'm more interested.
So tell us that why is it a problem for you?
What
This,
way?
you know, you just mentioned that in your affinity in relationship, in relating to Sharda Ma, as opposed to.
No, I did not say that.
You said that it's
I said that I relate to her. That is more of a bhav relationship. It's an emotional, elective, it's not even elective, affinity.
and
So others around her, I mean, they're welcome to come in,
to coexist.
guest appearance from time to time.
Tell me,
But,
what is the aspiration of this spirituality? Does it, sort of traditionally, our contemporary vocabulary is that, we all seek happiness and we seek to avoid suffering. In what ways do you feel it has taken you further down the road? If the journey is the goal, where has it taken you? In what directions? In what ways?
I am afraid, I can't subscribe to this binary opposition that we set up, between suffering and happiness. I mean, you have to take both. I mean, you can't be hung on happiness, even though philosophically speaking or theologically speaking, happiness is our nature, and हम पैदा हुए हैं खुशियाँ बांटने के लिए.
खुशियाँ बांटने के लिए खुद खुश होना जरूरी है कि नहीं?
अगर खुशियाँ बांटेंगे आप खुश हो जाएंगे. अगर आप if the agenda is first of all I will be super happy, I will be very happy, then I will be in a position to overcome, you see, my anal retentivity, my hold fast syndrome. It doesn't work that way. If you dispense happiness, happiness is yours, it comes to you. Okay? And there is happiness in suffering also. I mean, one doesn't have to make a big deal. I mean, that's why it's very difficult for me to accept this opposition between suffering and my basic. I feel very funny, really, when I have to define myself. You see, my basic orientation, it is Shaktik, you know, and not in any traditional sense either.
But are there forms of gratification that it seeks? You know, you mentioned khushiyan baatenge, you know, spreading happiness. You've had a long career as a teacher, engaging with students, and as you said, that students are not files; they're souls that you engage in. So, what are some of the joys, or the gratifications, or the pleasures, or however whatever word you wish to use, that have been the most intense moments in your life?
I will quote Walt Whitman. He says, "He who spreads his chest wider than mine is truly my Alif, my student, and he honors me the most who breaks my style." So I always feel happy, when, and I don't think, the teacher should feel that he is in the middle of vast expanse of water and the student is standing on the bank, with gadvis and gadvas and buckets. No, it's a synergy. It's a very mutualistic. If you can dream about your students, and if the students dream about you, I don't mean in the poetic sense, actual dreams, only then you can say the teacher is really thinking of the student. I mean, he's not just a giver of information, he's not just giving, a packet of knowledge. I mean, when he is psychicized by the student, and the student is becoming psychicized, or if you want to put it in Jungian term, unless there is a transferential bond, and not a passing, transient, unless there is a bond, and a rich bond, and also a problematic bond, and if it is resolved, and when the student leaves, you give him your blessing, and you give him pastrami sandwich also, and you are not concerned if he sends you a postcard, it doesn't send you. It's a very different relationship. So I was speaking with conviction when I said you are dealing with a soul, not with a file.
Yet even as you've said that you follow your instincts, you follow your interests with a poetic sensibility. You don't invest that much time in research, and you get underneath the skin, the feeling, the emotion, the logic, or what have you, of the subjects and the areas that you address. Yet there is an external reality that you have to engage with. You don't look and use computers. You write with your hand. There are publishers who need to publish your work. There is the external reality that you cannot escape.
What makes you think that you can only handle external reality, by using technology?
I'm not suggesting that.
I mean, I don't have to be into computers. I mean, so far I've gotten along. If tomorrow I sense, that I have run into some roadblock, I will go for a computer, pick it up, learn it. I have no.
But what is this external? What are the elements of the external realities, apart from cooking that you have mentioned, that you embrace, or some that you would rather not have?
I am still active. I told you, for example, I have entered my 76th year, and I'm a member of Academic Council of the University. I am a member of EC. I was unanimously elected. I'm a member of Punjabi University Senate, second time. I am examination discipline committee. You deal with cases of possession and using, possessed material, and I like to deal even there compassionately. So I'm dealing with external reality.
So
external reality which is around me, part of me.
But is the inevitable decaying of the body a reality that concerns you and the mind ultimately?
Not really.
Do you fear that in any way?
No, I don't. I mean, I should, but I don't. I sort of feel that I'm becoming younger. I'm 8 years old now. In my sensibility and the quality of my emotion, I'm waiting for the time, when I will become a 2-year-old toddler.
Second childishness.
It's not. I mean, old people are like children in any case. Because now they don't have to play the pretend self. Okay, they can just express. And if, let us say, for some reason, the family is not happy, they can express themselves. The whole world is a family. You can have your own surrogate children. I'm not happy with the word surrogation either. I mean, just connect, relate.
What is it that gives you the most? You said you're unhappy. What is it that makes you truly happy? What gives you, use contemporary jargon, the greatest high?
I have not put it in terms of that hierarchy. Relating is very important to me. I relate in the buses, on the roadside. Relating gives me a high. Okay, I mean, my 2 shots in the evening definitely give me a high. But it isn't that I start waiting, for the sun to go down, open the drapes of my room, oh, the sun should go down, so that I can have my. I enjoy that. I enjoy meditation. Somebody said, what is meditation to you? I say, it's a habit, like drinking is a habit, like reading is a habit.
So will you sort of in conclusion, read us something that you feel will tell us more about you, or a facet of you?
I'm reading from this very long poem, 148 page
Well,
poem.
you have
which
2
was
minutes,
written.
sir.
Huh?
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Touch is a mystery, but millions and millions of words from TV commercials or newspaper editorials and books of rhetoric from correspondence courses destroy its efficacy. Touch is forgot. Touch unreferred to thought and feeling. Knowledge has dealt the wound. Touch is the deep core of the sea, feeling and thought but the foam and the drifting weed. There is no touch in the preacher's sermon, far less in the politician's speech, none whatsoever at Saturday parties, where women turn on the battery of the charms to convince others and themselves that they still have the old magic which trapped them a husband. But sure, waiting in the dark pauses and the deep silences, touch free of us like where the God would descend, redeeming the anguish and the defeat. Touch, dear friend, is the body's grace, subtler than any poem. Buddha knew tender impersonal touch. Christ had it touched lepers into wholeness, kissed blind eyes, made them see salvos of light. And a strand of Alcibiades' hair, when touched, sang soul's immortality to Socrates. Touch is mindless. Ask the lovers. Words cannot hold it, nor memory store it.
Thank you very much, sir. You have touched me deeply indeed, and I'm grateful for this conversation. It's been a great learning experience.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.